Hi, and welcome to RecoverED, a podcast from the Magdalen House, a recovery community for alcoholic women. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Dallas, Texas, and known affectionately by many as Maggies.
The RecoverED podcast is made to educate the community on alcoholism, the Magdalen House, our programs, and resources for the community.
In each episode, you will get to know the disease of alcoholism a little better, and soon you'll know how you can shatter the stigma around alcoholism in your community with your host, Diana Miller, and
me, Nandan Dandar. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for listening.
Today, my guests are Blanca Garcia, Director of Mental Health Resources, and Lizzie Davis Holley, Mental Health Resource Manager with the Grant Halliburton Foundation. Ladies, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having us. We're glad to be here.
All right, so can you tell us about the Grant Halliburton Foundation and specifically the Here for Texas Mental Health Navigation Line?
Yeah, so Grant Halliburton Foundation was started in 2006 by the Halliburton Foundation. It was started in response to Grant Halliburton's death. He took his life. He struggled with depression and bipolar disorder for many years. His family and him, they tried many different therapies, but he ended up taking his life when he was 19. And so in response to that, his family started the foundation, really around outreach and education, primarily to adolescents. And out of that came the people being like, okay, we understand what's going on. We understand that there's a problem, that our kids need help. Here are the signs of suicide and mental illness. But what can we do? What are resources that we can provide to our kids and to our loved ones? And so that's really where the navigation line in the Here for Texas program came out of. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, and so our Here for Texas program includes our mental health navigation line, which is a free helpline that anyone can call to receive resources here in North Texas. And so if it's for mental health or substance use, our navigators are able to answer calls from that line and really provide resources that are going to be tailored to each person's needs. We know that even if we have a mental disorder, everyone experiences them differently and needs different types of treatment and support. And so we're able to tailor those options for them. And then the other piece that I think is really helpful is the herefortexas.com website. We have so much information on that site, from what to do in a crisis, the common mental disorders, treatment options, even websites for support, apps, books on mental health. We really want it to be a place where people can go for information when they have no idea where to start. So we want to be that starting point. And from that website, there's also a provider database. So anyone can access that. Again, that is also no cost, and you can filter down what you need. If it's depression that you're struggling with, if it's anxiety, if it's substance use, or just family issues, you can find providers on there, again, that are going to be close to you. If you need a language other than English, if you're looking for a certain payment type. And so that resource piece is really what Lizzie and I do. And we just have felt like it's such an important piece to make sure that we're providing in addition to the education of Grant Halliburton Foundation.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible, and it's definitely much needed in the community, so thank you. We know that alcoholism is a physical and mental disease. Can you talk a little bit about the intersection between your mental health efforts and alcoholism?
I think that's such an important question, and I'm really glad that, you invited us here to have this conversation. One of the things about mental illness and alcoholism is that it's hard to know which one came first. Mm-hmm. Is it that we have a mental illness and we're struggling so much that we turn to alcohol to cope? Or is it that we have abused alcohol to the point where it has maybe triggered or led to the development of a mental illness? Mm-hmm. It's so hard to tell. But I think that's an important piece for us to know, is that there's a very big overlap as well between just what does it feel like. So when we are abusing substances or have a mental illness, we can feel depressed, we can feel anxious, we can have a hard time sleeping, we might not sleep at all, we might have changes in appetite, changes in energy level, changes in relationships. All of those pieces are overlaps between, is it mental illness or is it alcoholism? And so for us, I think we want to emphasize, that it just becomes a really difficult cycle. And as far as the resources that we recommend to people, it is to be able to address both pieces. Let's see if we can address the substance use piece and what are those underlying pieces, but then also can we address maybe that underlying mental illness and making sure that you're kind of tackling, for lack of a better word, that you're tackling it from two different sides. Yeah. We see that overlap all the time, I think.
We do. We see it often with alcohol, with other substances, and a variety of things. And I love that you talk about the mind and the body, because it's so interconnected. Our mental health is mental health is health, and so they are connected, and everything around that area is so important. We were talking recently about how stress can trigger your gut, and it can influence your gut health, and the same is true with your mental health, and all of it ties together.
Absolutely. It is all interconnected. So here at the Magdalen House, we focus on helping women achieve and sustain recovery from alcohol. But we also bring community resources to our participants and are very grateful for your mental health navigation line. Can you talk a little bit about the community's response to the hotline, and what are the biggest successes and challenges that you have encountered so far?
So I will say that one of the really wonderful things that happened when we launched the mental health navigation line in 2019 is that the community was very responsive. And I feel that the different organizations and nonprofits that we partnered with and told about the navigation line were very excited. And, I'm a mental health professional. I've been in the field for over 10 years. And in my mind, to be honest, I was like, this is just another phone number. How helpful can it be? I had my doubts. And then I remembered how difficult it is to navigate the system. And so the more I think that we are talking to our callers, that we're connecting people, it's the reminder of, hey, this was a really needed resource for people. And so I think probably after a few months of when we officially launched it, I started to feel kind of what the community support was feeling, was that, hey, this is really helpful and it's really needed in the community. So we've been super thankful at just the overwhelming support and positive response. And then even just for this year in 2023, so far we're at an almost 40% increase in the callers to our navigation line.
That's incredible.
So not only do we think it's important, not only do we want to help, but people are trusting us enough to call our navigation line to get those resources.
Excellent. Any challenges that you're still working on?
I think as far as challenges, we spoke about this earlier today. It's hard to get your name out there, right? So we're a small nonprofit. I know Magdalen House is a small nonprofit.
Yes.
And marketing is expensive. So from the director of, this programming, I think getting your name out there is the hardest piece. And making sure that they know that we're associated with Grant Halliburton Foundation. So it's, we have our nonprofit that, again, provides that education, provides the resources. And Here for Texas is the name of the program that's providing that for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other things that can get in the way is just the stigma around mental health. It's so multidimensional. When you talk about stigma, it can be generational, cultural, even our own stigmas when we're looking at ourselves and where do I go to start? What do I do? I can recognize that there's an issue, but how do I even start? So that's who a lot of our callers are who come in, are parents or loved ones, or even people themselves calling and just being like, I need help, or I recognize that I have this symptom. I recognize that this is going on in my life, but I don't know where to even begin. And so we can kind of help navigate them through that.
And one of the things that I wanted to mention too is a big challenge that we see is going to be the financial piece. And so it's really important for us to be able to partner with organizations like Magdalen House, where services can be provided at no cost for the individuals that don't have maybe the financial means and that are also high quality services. And so I say that with you guys, not because we're on your podcast, but we have had a couple of friends who have been here to Maggie's house, as they very affectionately call it, and have had just wonderful things to say. And so we know that connecting with, resources that are accessible for everyone is very important. Obviously, with COVID, everyone brings up all of the different barriers that COVID introduced, and that financial barrier was an additional one. And so even now, a few years later, we're still seeing financial repercussions. Right now, we're seeing the increase of prices. Inflation is nuts, even with groceries. I bought dog food yesterday, and I was like, why is the bag like $20 more this week? What happened?
Right.
And so those finances, if you have to choose between maybe not dog food, but maybe like food for yourself or your family, or an appointment for therapy, you're probably going to choose the food, right? We have to get those basic needs met. So making sure that we have options for everyone. And so we've been very, very, very thankful that we've had so many different types of individuals call our navigation line. So we have people that they want to use their insurance from their job. We have families whose children are on Medicaid and they want to make sure those providers are available, to individuals that need free services, but then to individuals that have the financial means and just, they are also looking for the resource that's going to fit their family the best. And it's been really nice for us, I think, to serve everyone and to make sure that we are providing the best options, best information, caring for them, talking to them with empathy and patience on the phone, because that can be really hard. And really, I think, again, that reminder for us that it affects everyone. There's not a specific type of person. There's not a specific area that people come from that are going to be affected by mental illness or by alcoholism. It affects so many of us. And back to Lizzie's piece about stigma. And so we want to make sure that we are talking about it. I want to add that from our point of view at Grant Halliburton Foundation, every single one of our staff members has a connection to mental health. Unfortunately, a good handful of us are survivors of suicide, which means that we have lost a loved one to suicide. And I think that with all of our navigators that answer our phone line, they also, every single one of them, when they apply for this and go through training, they have to have a connection to mental health, whether it's they themselves have struggled with mental illness, they've had a loved one, a family member. It allows us to treat people, I think, with even more empathy and have more patience and want to really connect them to the correct services. And again, another reason that we really love Magdalen House, because we know that your staff and your volunteers and the caring women that are involved have struggled with alcoholism themselves and are sharing their sobriety with their fellow women. And there is just something about that adds that connection. And when you talk about mental illness, when you talk about life struggles, the difficulty that was the pandemic, or even, struggling with alcoholism by yourself, drinking in your car, there's a part of connection that we're missing and that we need as people. And so I think it's very much a sense of, I guess, pride that we can have that connection. We don't want to have the stigma surrounding this topic when there are so many of us that have that personal connection.
Yeah, and with that, with our volunteers go through 40 hours of training for our navigation line. That includes classroom training with Blanca as well as phone training. And yes, there are certain qualifications and things that they need to meet in terms of being familiar with technology and that sort of thing. But our biggest qualification is that tied to mental health, whether that's themselves or a loved one that they've helped through the process or they've seen through the process. And we also want to make sure that they are in a place on their journey where they are at a point where they are able to talk to others and empathetically lend a hand, because that really just makes an impact.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. I think that we share a lot of the same challenges. You know, like you said, we are also a small nonprofit. We are both fighting the stigma associated with mental health and alcoholism, respectively. And of course, they are so intertwined. I do think that, efforts, like us partnering, community outreach, community education, engaging the community, getting the word out there, first and foremost about, mental health as part of physical health, alcoholism as a disease, and the fact that we are able to use each other as resources for referrals, I think is so powerful. And you touched on volunteers and how integral they are. Our volunteers are amazing. We could not do this work without them. We, for example, do not have staff that stay overnight at the house, and our volunteers fulfill that role. And again, like your volunteers, they are very empathetic because they either themselves are in recovery or, have a family member who is an alcoholic. So for somebody listening, how can they get involved, and what kind of volunteer opportunities do you all have?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, our biggest one is going to be our mental health navigation line. And so again, that's a 40-hour training. We will give you the information that you need. We'll lay that foundation so that you know how to answer calls, how to answer questions, how to support the callers. Again, we have a really big variety of types of callers, from the parent that's calling for their teenager to, someone who is an adult who's looking for services from themselves, to the school counselor who's looking for something for their student. So with that volunteer position, there's no mental health, like professional mental health education required. We provide that training. We only ask our volunteers to volunteer 6 hours per month. So they'll do 2 shifts on the phone. The nice thing is we are completely virtual. So that was something that came out of COVID. When we took our program virtual, we tried to invite volunteers to come back into the office, but I think they really like the comfort of being at home.
None of them have taken us up on that offer.
Exactly. So we've kept it virtual, which I think just opens the opportunity to others. And again, it's talking to people that are going through a tough time, gathering their information, and then making sure that you're providing that listening ear. The other volunteer opportunities that are available are with the Halliburton Foundation. So it might be helping at an event that we have. We do a lot of outreach events. That is something that we always love having volunteers at. I think, again, it provides a different perspective, but then you actually get to interact with the community in person, give them information, tell them about the resources that are available. Next month, on June the 3rd, we're actually going to have a table for the Pride event. And so that's a group that, for LGBTQ youth, if they don't have a supportive adult in the household, right, their rates of a suicide attempt or loss of life due to suicide drastically increases. And so that is a group of youth and families that we very much want to make sure has this information and that we can connect with. So I would say outreach events and the mental health navigation line are going to be the big pieces for our group. And then the foundation does offer other opportunities that are available on our website.
Wonderful. And we are just so grateful for y'all. And we have the Here for Texas Mental Health Navigation line listed on our resource list for our clients, alumni, and community.
Wonderful.
So if somebody's listening to this podcast and they need help, they need guidance, how can they access your services?
So they can reach out to us on our mental health navigation line. So our number is 972-525-8181. Our line is available Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. And so that line is really, we're not a crisis line. We are a resource line. We are equipped to take crisis calls if they come in, but our goal is really to help people connect and navigate the system. We also have on our website, there's an online resource form. So if you're up past 6 p.m., you're up in the middle of the night thinking about your mental health, or you're working in the community and you have someone that you're thinking of, you can submit that at any hour and we will get back to you. And we also have a chat option on our website as well. So if you want to talk to someone in real time, that's available during the same work hours, 10 to 6, Monday through Friday.
And you can go to our website for that information at herefortexas.com. And then the exciting piece to add on to the end of that is we also have added 2 bilingual staff members within this past year. And so now all of our resources and services are also available in Spanish. So from the education presentations that we provide, the navigation line will continue to provide services in Spanish. We've been very lucky that that service has always been bilingual. And now also our chat, our online resource request form, and our website is available in Spanish. So you can either go to herefortexas.com for the English information, or you can go to herefortexas.com/Espanol for the Spanish information. So everything we have in English, we also have it in Spanish. So just another way of trying to make sure that information is accessible to everyone that might need it.
Excellent. And just to reiterate, you spoke about this earlier. So this line is available for anybody in the community, regardless of whether they have insurance or not, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And the foundation focuses on youth mental health, but our mental health navigation line is for anyone that needs it, any ages, anywhere in North Texas, any type of mental health or substance use struggle.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, ladies, so much again for the work that you do and for joining us. Again, my guests today are Blanca Garcia, Director of Mental Health Resources, and Lizzie Davis Holley, Mental Health Resource Manager at the Grant Halliburton Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank
you, Diana. We appreciate it.
This has been RecoverED with guest host Nandan Dandar and brought to you by the Magdalen House. I am Diana Miller, host of the RecoverED podcast series. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Tune in every Wednesday for a new release from one of our 4 series. To learn more about the Magdalen House and the services we offer, visit magdalenhouse.org or follow us on your favorite social media channels.
This has been RecoverED, hosted by Diana Miller and brought to you by the Magdalen House. I am Laurie Evans, host of our Hope for the Family podcast series. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please tune in every Wednesday for a new release from one of our 4 series. To learn more about the Magdalen House and the services that we offer, visit magdalenhouse.org or follow us on any of your favorite social media channels.